Today is election day in the state's recall. Californians will decide whether Governor Newsom will keep his job.
Our team of reporters making sure we are ready for the day ahead. News 8's Chris Groh has a closer look at the final push from supporters and critics of the governor. But first, Allison Royal is live at the County Registrar of Voters with the latest. Good morning, Allison.
Hey, good morning, Eric and Stella. So a lot of different options for people who want to cast their vote. We have curbside voting in all 221 of those polling locations throughout San Diego County. And there is also a ballot marking device at every single one of those polling locations. That makes it easier for people with maybe vision or dexterity issues to go ahead and cast their vote.
These will allow an individual who is visually impaired or blind to listen to an audio ballot. They could black out the touch screen and they could use a handheld controller with large arrows or braille to mark their ballot.
So that was interim registrar of voters here in San Diego County, Cynthia Paz. I spoke with her and she said the most commonly asked question is, do I vote on both parts of the ballot? She said the answer is simple, that is completely up to each voter. They can either answer just one or both of the questions on their ballot. That first question asks each voter if they support recalling Gavin Newsom or no. The second question asks who they'd like to see replace Newsom in the event a recall is successful. How they answer is their choice. There are 131 ballot drop-off locations throughout San Diego County, and then of course those 221 polling locations, but you don't have an assigned polling location this time around. That means you can walk into any polling location throughout San Diego County and cast your ballot. The Registrar of Voters, they have been hard at work. This is not a 5-minute vote for them. Their office typically has 69 permanent employees, but they bring in about 3,000 temporary employees to help for this recall election. This is California's first recall vote since 2003, and back out here live, the Registrar of Voters is expecting about a 70% voter turnout. If you'd like to find a polling place in your area or maybe one of those ballot drop-off locations, there are also drive-through ballot drop-off locations, by the way, at each polling place. We have a list for those locations on our website. That is CBS8.com. I'm going to go ahead and send it back to you, too.
And voters throughout the state are deciding two important questions here, as we touched on, whether Governor Newsom will remain in office, and if not, who should replace him.
President Biden campaigned for the governor in Long Beach as nearly 4 dozen candidates are trying to make their case. News 8's Chris Groh is live at Liberty Station with that part of the story. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning. So a lot of things going on for voters that haven't decided yet, right? They've got to decide whether or not they are going to recall Governor Gavin Newsom. That's that first question, yes or no. Then deciding amongst all of those candidates, one of them being former San Diego Mayor Kevin Faulconer. We're at his campaign stop right here in Liberty Station. But the big thing right now is that this is the final push. This is the all-out blitz. So let's start with the incumbent, Governor Gavin Newsom, who had President Joe Biden stopping by in Long Beach to help make that final push.
I cannot reinforce the consequences of this recall to set back California and take us off the same COVID cliff that you've seen in places like Texas and Florida and Mississippi and elsewhere.
He's the clone of Donald Trump. Can you imagine him being governor of this state?
Now, Newsom and his campaign are hoping that the president's presence at the stop in California, that this is going to convince those undecided voters to mark no on their recall ballots today. The message from the Newsom campaign has been highlighting the state's COVID-19 response, and as you just heard, comparing it to other states led by Republican governors who have seen alarming surges in hospitalizations and deaths during this pandemic and latest surge of the Delta variant for COVID-19. Now, there also have been some shots taken at some of the other candidates vying for his job, namely Republican frontrunner conservative talk show host Larry Elder, who you just heard President Biden compare to a clone of former President Donald Trump. Now, ironically, many of the candidates looking to replace Governor Newsom have criticized the state's handling of COVID-19 and the pandemic. They focused on the economic impact, the business closures, and Elder says if elected, he would abolish the state's mask and vaccine mandates on his first day in office. Now, other criticisms include Governor Newsom's controversial dinner at the hyper-exclusive French Laundry restaurant in Napa. His record on some of the state's biggest issues have also been targeted by Elder and others who are looking for a big change-up and shake-up there in Sacramento.
Many of the people that are passing rules and regulations in Sacramento have never so much as even run a hot dog stand.
Mr. Newsom's dinner here at the French Laundry showed where he really was, and that is catering to the connected and the lobbyists and the interest groups that really run this state. Well, people ought to know that I'm in this race because I believe I have ideas and solutions that will fix California.
That last voice you just heard from their candidate and Rancho Santa Fe businessman, John Cox. Now, again, Elder is the front runner amongst those candidates, more than 40 of them vying for the governor's job. But we're already starting to hear some doubts being cast by major Republican players, really not just even in the state of California, not just Elder, who's already deciding that they are going to play that card there of essentially saying that they believe that there is fraud happening already in this election. But they also got a big backing there by President Donald Trump. Remember, President Donald Trump continued and still continues to spread lies about the 2020 election, something that the courts have thrown out many challenges against the results there that they believe were fraudulent. But he did write a statement saying, quote, "Does anybody really believe the California recall election isn't rigged?" So we're already starting to see some of that doubt cast there before we even have a final vote tally. Now, we also did hear from California Secretary of State Shirley Weber, who says concerns about election integrity at this point in time right now are simply inaccurate. Eric and Stella.